10 property lessons from past downturns. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from Yahoo Finance discussing 10 lessons learned from past property downturns to take into 2021, written by Michael Yardney, author and, well, property bull. Perma-property bull, you could almost say. It's how he's built his wealth. I'd imagine, judging by what I've read and seen from him, it's a big part of his personality now and his identity. So you've got to understand there may be a bias there. But still, there's some good lessons here I think we can learn from someone who's been around quite some time. So let's have a look. Clearly, there will be continuing issues with the pandemic affecting our local economy, and the socio-political problems that plagued the world last year are unlikely to disappear. Yet most analysts and economists agree that our property markets should perform strongly in 2021. But let's put this in context. Australia's property markets have been sluggish for the last 3 years, so the government has intervened to prop it up. They're not allowing a correction to occur at all. You've got the banks giving mortgage holidays. You've got businesses allowed to trade while insolvent. You've got JobKeeper propping up businesses. You've got a job seeker bonus keeping more people in their properties. They're not allowing the market to correct. Then you've got at the state level, you've got grants, discounts, handouts. At the federal level, you've got housing grants, Home Builder version 1, Home Builder version 2, home loan guarantees, so you can get in there with 5%. So the government is doing everything they can to prop it up. Now people may think, oh, that's good, we can't have tough times. We can't have corrections in the market. Nobody wants a correction. Nobody wants to feel like they've lost money on their property. But the problem is that the government interventions don't come for free. There is a price to be paid. If not now, in the future. You're bringing forward future spending. You're increasing the money supply into the property sector. That results in the Cantillon effect, which creates a bubble, which is why, among other things, property is just, I'll bring up this chart, has just been climbing and climbing and climbing. And what does the government do? Well, a big chunk of their voters are struggling to get into the property market. It becomes a political football. People suggest solutions. The biggest solution is throwing more money at it, inflating it even more. So people will feel like they're getting a first home buyer grant and they can get into property and it keeps going up. But the purchasing power relative to other properties of their money keeps decreasing. Years ago, you could have bought a house much cheaper than you can now. And there you go. And the ABS doesn't know, an RBA, all of those organizations, they don't quite measure inflation the way we'd expect them to, because you'd want property to be counted into it, the whole thing. But land is going up too, in a country bigger than Europe and America, pretty much. Land is expensive in Australia because we only live on a little slither of the coast. Anyway, let's have a look at this, because I get the feeling more and more there's no political will to allow the market to correct at all. We saw Shorten go to the polls to try and address negative gearing, and I appreciate now what he was trying to do. What frustrated me is that they were going to keep it, so all the boomers could still get the negative gearing advantage who had it, but then all the younger people wouldn't get the advantage, so it would create even more of a generational divide. It's not what you want, everyone. So let's have a look. This started with the APRA-induced credit squeeze prior to the Haynes Royal Commission into banking in 2018, followed by the fright of a Labor government changing property tax laws in 2019, and finally the pandemic-induced property market lockdowns of 2020. So he's taking it back to the credit squeeze, making it harder to get money, which they've all loosened up now. Then in October 2020, our property market started moving out of their downturn phase, and all capital cities other than Melbourne, which is now catching up, finished the year higher than they started. So what's ahead for property in 2021 and beyond? Given there are a number of markets across the country, all at different points in their own cycle, I'd like to look back and share 10 lessons I've learned from previous property downturns that could be helpful in 2021. I mean, this is the thing. It's crazy. Even in Sydney, we can have a look at, I'll bring up this chart here. Where is it? the unit price chart. You've got the red rooster line and the goat cheese line. You know, the posh East Coasters eating their goat cheese in their pretentious cafes, and then you got the red rooster people in the left, you know, the bogans, going for, you know, a carton of beer and some red rooster. Frankly, I could enjoy both. And I think a lot of Australians could enjoy both. But that's the old joke. You've got the posh units are getting more valuable, and the investor grade lower class units aren't getting as valuable. The growth hasn't been the same. You really need to look down to the suburb level when you talk about property. So these are some macro level rules that he's sharing. So property slumps don't last forever. Well, what about Japan? They do. They do in certain parts of the world. They last forever. If there is a monumental shift there, their population growth has tanked. They're facing a lot of problems. You've got certain parts of Japan where little regional towns, there's like abandoned properties everywhere, and they're not having enough kids. Here in Australia, our population growth is highly dependent on migration. More than 50% of it has come from migration in the last few years. We're still not having enough kids. I'm doing my part. Are you? But the thing to consider is, if that becomes a permanent change, that's going to have a bigger impact on the property sector than you might realize. We'll have to see. But he's right. Generally, they don't last forever, at least in his living memory, at least in ours. I think most people, the younger people watching this, probably don't even remember the last recession. That's the scary thing when you see the business coaches and the young people going out there trying to flog you their system, and they're too young to remember a recession. Whether it's property shares or bitcoins, booms just don't last forever. Neither do downturns. The thing is, downturns are just one part of the cycle, so they will always end at some point. Yes, but we need to this is the thing. We need to let the downturns occur. There needs to be some creative destruction in an economy to create opportunity for new people to come and rise up. And if you don't let that happen, we're all paying the price. The more money the government injects into property, the greater the bubble in the property sector. The less your purchasing power of your money is decreasing relative to property, faster than anything else. Except Bitcoin. Every boom sets us up for the next downturn, just as every flat period provides opportunities to get set for the next upturn. The trick is to maximize your upside while preparing yourself for the next downturn. And I mean, we're starting to see more and more Australians who've got the targets for saving, more of them putting money away. I'm hoping this economic recession will be a slap in the face and wake everyone up, so they will be ready to take advantage. What's the old saying? Buy when others are fearful. Get in when others are fearful. I had a good mate, that was the advice that he used, but you need to be able to build up a war chest to take advantage of that. And maybe some people haven't been able to, but this recession will force them to get a bit of a control on their finances so they're in a better position. Stick to your strategy. Don't change your long-term investment strategy because of short-term factors. Look for what's always worked rather than what's working now. Your long-term wealth will be created by the capital growth of your property portfolio, increasing your asset base. Sure, cash flow is important, it will keep you in the game, but it's capital growth that will get you out of the rat race. Let's be honest, almost anyone could have made money during the boom years as the market covered up any mistakes. He's right there. Everyone is a genius during times of booming. I've noticed in the crypto sphere, all of the YouTubers back from 2017 and 18 that were predicting all these super high things, they're all suddenly back again. They'd kind of taken a year off, and now they're there spruiking again. And I'm a little less naive now, and I realize now how many of them were paid to shill IPOs and all this stuff. So, when times are good, everyone's a genius. But as Warren Buffett said, you only find out who is swimming naked when the tide goes out. In other words, if you're not following a strategy that works in all market conditions, you'll be caught naked when the market changes, and it will be because, as always, the good times we've experienced in the next few years will also come to an end. Get rich quick equals get poor quick. Yes, now this is some great advice here. You're going to see more and more of these people spruiking you get rich quick schemes. If you can, it's lucky most people can't. Most people can't get rich quick. You got to work for it, everyone. If you want something in life, you have to work for it. If you don't work for it, I would argue, you may not appreciate it. Successful property investment takes time. Be wary because just like at the beginning of every other property cycle, there's a new breed of spruiker out there that's looking to lure the uneducated into parting with their money by offering them a shortcut to riches. That's some good advice right there. Watch out for the spruikers or the people selling you a scheme or a system. I had one viewer wrote me quite a lengthy email about how they were using credit cards to mitigate their mortgage, how they were paying it off quicker. What they were doing is they had a special ING credit card where they would get 30 days interest free and it would all go off their mortgage. So they'd pay all the bills for their friends and collect all the cash. And they paid off real quick. I think they were based in Tasmania a few years ago, so housing wasn't as expensive as it is now. But he's providing a business. He's providing a bill-paying business, and he's taking money from family members and giving them interest where they're not declaring the income. So he's doing all this dodgy stuff that technically you can't do. And the problem is, if he pissed off someone, like his girlfriend's dad, someone could dob you in. So it's not the type of thing that you should be recommending or doing. I'd suggest getting control of your finances, getting rid of your debt and managing it nice and simply and just hitting it hard. So that was quite interesting to see some of these strategies. So you got to be careful. It sounded like a lot of work as well, paying bills for a whole lot of people. Oh, it sounded like a nightmare. Anyway, watch out the people that can tell you there's a way to get rich quick. So take a long-term perspective. Don't let emotions drive your investment decisions. Well, how many people are driven by FOMO? We've got a whole property market that's driven by FOMO. Everyone's got fear of missing out. We're seeing the huge parabolic boom in Bitcoin right now. What are we sitting at? 37,000. There you go. It's shot up. I was looking the other day, it was 34. It's going crazy, everyone. How many people are getting in there for fear of missing out? That's the thing. I mean, look at that. That's investment decisions. Whereas if you're dollar cost averaging it over some time, it's a little different. So I like that advice. Early last year, during the peak of the scare regarding COVID-19, fear started to rear its head. People who made poor investment decisions or those who bought near the market peak started to panic. Then as the market picked up, the fear of buying early kept home buyers and investors out of the market. They were worried that property prices could still drop further. Now that it is clear that our markets are on the move again, FOMO, the fear of missing out, has set in. Many home buyers and property investors are concerned that the market will take off before they get a foothold. Let's face it, emotions of any kind are not a good idea when investing. But it's hard to remove yourself from the emotions. I was doing cash for difference investing and making money on the movements of the market, and my emotions just got too much for me. I'd be up there all night watching, oh yeah, it's going up, going down. It's not worth it. The stress isn't worth it. Sometimes you've got to remember when you're making money or when you're doing anything, when you're investing, when you're in business, is it the money or what's worth more? Having a stress-free life in some ways is priceless. At least that's kind of where the point I'm at now. That's why I'm doing boring. I want my dividend income and I don't want to worry about anything else. Just stick it in there and forget it. That's kind of the strategy I'm doing for this year, and we'll see how it goes. The secret is to keep your eye on the long-term horizon and not worry about short-term vagaries of the market because they will pass. Property investment is a game of finances with some houses thrown in the middle. Strategic investors don't only buy real estate, they buy themselves time by having the correct financial structures in place, including cash flow buffers to ride through the cycle. Well, this is the thing. I mean, this is all good advice that some people needed to hear before they started investing. We saw article after article of people who are only still in their house because of the mortgage holidays that people are getting. We saw professionals who were depending on the mortgage holidays because they had no buffer. What about that? Remember the teacher that had 5 properties where he was negative gearing them and paying interest only. And now he was sad that he's not going to have anything for retirement. That's not having cash flows. That's not being able to ride out tough times. Or the whole rent-vestor craze where people want to live in a nicer suburb than buy somewhere else and rent it out. And then, okay, they're a landlord, there's responsibilities. Oh, look, the government has put rules in place now that you can't kick people out. Oh, look, they're not paying their rent for some reason. Oh, you might lose your house. Lucky you got that holiday. How many people have jumped in and don't quite know what they're doing? Invest in locations with a future, not a past. Since the bulk of your property's performance will be determined by its location rather than looking for somewhere cheap to buy, find a location where local economic growth will lead to jobs growth, wages growth, and population growth. Look for a suburb where the local demographic can afford to and will be willing to pay for their properties because they earn high disposable incomes. And in these post-COVID times, locations that will outperform will be desirable, aspirational suburbs which offer mobility and proximity. By proximity, I mean the ability to work, live, and play all within 20 minutes reach of the new gold standard desirable lifestyle. So we're looking at some green changes. It seems that in our new COVID normal world, I hate that word. I really do when people are saying COVID normal. People love the thought that most of the things needed for a good life are within a short public transport trip, bike ride, or walk from home. Things such as shopping, business services, education, community facilities, recreation, sports, resources, and some jobs. You know less than you think. A healthy ego can be a good sign of future success. However, an overinflated ego will usually mean you end up worse than when you started. If you're the smartest person in the team, you're in trouble, so recognize that mentors and experts can help you. Don't mistake money for wealth. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting because fiat money can lose its value. And as the government creates more, the traditional definition of inflation is an increase in the money supply. They've changed that definition. Go back and look at the traditional definition, an increase in money supply. And we've seen that happening. Look at the States. A big balance means someone's rich, right? Well, no, it doesn't. Many high-income earners live one pay to another and never have enough money left over to invest in income-producing assets. Oh, that's even... He's not talking about inflation, but that's even worse. It's the people that are making six figures and are still struggling to get by. That's got nothing to do with not having enough money. It's got everything to do with the inability of people to manage their finance. It's financial literacy. It's the basics. It's getting an Excel table going and look where every dollar goes, guys. Manage every bloody dollar and see where that goes before you do anything. Because having a lot of money doesn't mean you're going to be happy and doesn't mean all your problems go away. Not by any measure. If you think that, you've probably never had a lot of money. Okay, honestly, your problems still find you. If you can be happy with a little bit of money, you can, and be happy with a lot of money, then life is a lot better. And if you can be stress-free in both those situations, then you've got it made, guys. No point having truckloads of cash when you live in a stressed, horrible life. What would you rather? I'm sure there are a lot of people in the comments that can relate to that have gone through both. The truly wealthy not only have capital growth portfolio behind them, but they've also learned that money is not wealth. That's why they make time for their family and their health, and they give back to society and their local communities, because that is where true happiness lies. And these lessons were brought home clearly to many of us as we were huddled in our coronavirus cocoons. That's actually some really good advice there. That is some really good advice. Because when I've spoken to people who are doing very well and very wealthy, and what do they talk about? Their family. Time with their kids. Probably bitching and moaning how the kids annoy them sometimes, but how much they love it. The sky isn't falling. When the good times seemingly turn bad, the property pessimists and doomsayers come to the fore. These commentators predict the end of the financial world, suggest we should all set up and hide under a rock. Well, we all want to be preppers, don't we? On the other hand, sophisticated investors ignore the white noise because they are concentrated on the long term, where the view is calm and clear. Or they realize the government's going to step in and prop up the property sector because there is no political will to allow the market to correct. We're not in a free market here, everyone. Remember, the more the government props up property, the more intervention, the less incentive there is for our economy to reach greater levels of complexity. So opportunity is knocking. When opportunity arises, strike. Remember Warren Buffett's words, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. Sure, it's difficult to take action when others around you are talking doom and gloom, but it is during downturns that lifetime wealth is made. So while the best time to buy property may have been 20 years ago, or probably 40 years ago, the second best time to set yourself up for financial independence and buy investment-grade property is right now. But don't expect a bargain. As well, local investment grade properties are in strong demand, not apartments. Look, after every downturn, there is now a flight to quality. What? Quality my buyers? Anyway, the bottom line, strategic investors don't really care too much about the market phases. Instead, they concentrate on growing their portfolios and investing in the right types of property, whatever it suits their finance, their strategy, and their long-term goals. Currently, there has been a palpable change in market sentiment on the ground, and this is reflected in strong buyer activity at a time when there is a little good stock on the market. Here are some of the indicators suggesting that 2021 will be a great year for property investors. Consumer confidence has gradually improved, as has business confidence. Auction clearance rates have been consistently strong for the last few months in 2020, not just in the two big auction capitals of Melbourne and Sydney. Okay, consumer confidence is up from all-time lows. So, of course, it's going to go up. We've had a little Christmas bump. Let's see what happens when we start to see more insolvencies appear. Auction clearance rates, well, treat them as a indicator, a trend, not as an accurate representation. There's a whole lot of, buffer in these things. If you go to my website, have a look at the fake auction clearance rates exposed article, you can see here just the variables, the range. Advertised at 74, worst case could be 60, best case 79, depending on the situation. So you don't trust them as gospel, everyone. At the same time, banks are keen to write new business. Another positive for our housing markets, and in March this year, they're going to further loosen their lending criteria, increasing the financial capacity for many buyers. And what will that do when you increase the supply of money in a market? What happens? Candle effect, everyone. Bank loan deferrals have been falling. There's no chance of an avalanche of forced mortgagee sales, as many were worried about. Let's see. And once JobKeeper and mortgage holidays ends, once JobKeeper ends, and thank you, Odie, and we'll have a look. Okay, Jojo, I'll be out soon with the kids. I've got breakfast and grandmother here, so I better get this finished. That's the thing. The latest rate cut and guarantee of rates remain low for at least 3 years will give home buyers and investors confidence. Moving forward, job creation, consumer confidence, and business confidence leading to spending and employment will underpin our housing market. Just to make things clear, we're not going to fall off a fiscal cliff as those naysayers predicted. Well, because they just juiced up the market. Look at all this artificial intervention. Maybe we need a fiscal cliff. Maybe we need some destruction in this, so we're not putting everything in property. Why would you work? Why would you start up a business? Why would you go through all that pain and hassle when you can buy a house and make more money on that? Then write books about it and articles and just keep doing it again and again. It's easier. I've been, since Christmas Eve, I've been working on a project, so that's kind of why I've cut down the number of videos I've been doing, only 3 a day. And you may have heard me in the past say, in the past I had staff, now I just work later to make the deadlines, which I've been doing, so I'm pretty tired. When I just buy a house and sit on there, we'll have to see. It'll be interesting to see. We're doing a lot of renovation work on our place. That's our big project this year. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the value of it after that. Not that I really care, because we've got a big family, we need the space, and this is the most affordable option we could get in Brisbane. Anyway, there is no Australian property bubble that's about to burst, as those perma bears keep telling us. There's no Australian property bubble. Quite the opposite. There is a perfect storm of positive factors developing from our property market this year. A confluence of multiple growth drivers which will propel our property markets into 2021 and 2022. And that's the thing, everyone. The thing to consider. Do you want a political system where our politicians intervene in the market to prop up property, to artificially create incentives for people to get into there, or would you rather more freedom in the market to allow a more diverse economy? That's the question, everyone. Because everything that he's talking about here, this is all very general advice, general sensible advice. He's given some good advice here. But that's what it comes down to, is do we want all this resources, energy, innovation driven to property? People are calling for manufacturing in Australia, this and this, create more jobs. How can we have it when everything's just targeting housing? What do you think? As always, guys, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Do you think we'll see a property correction, or do you think it's impossible? I'm starting to suspect more and more the articles coming out of the banks and the ABS or RBA discussing 30% falls, 40% falls were done strategically to incentivize the government to push for more stimulus. What do you think? As always, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and you enjoy the content I cobbled together here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. Use any of the affiliate links you find below from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, and AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Have a great day, everyone, and I will see you all in the next video.